Alison, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you so much for joining us here at the New Market stage.
Thank you. I nailed the coordination with the pink lasers today. So
yes, this is definitely our most laser-filled stage we've ever had here at Shoptalk.
Right.
I'm
Awesome.
excited to be talking with you on it. So I want to start not with like something controversial. I certainly don't want to make a speaker mad at me with the first question out of the gate. But like, as I've been talking about the new market and how we're programming it, I've been kind of saying, you know, we've got these amazing like new digital media companies like Reddit and TikTok, and we've got, and then I pause a little bit and I kind of search for the right word. I've landed on legacy media companies like NBCU. And I mean, legacy is kind of just a nice way of saying older, I think. So correct me, educate me. Like, how do you talk about NBCU and what you guys are these days?
yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. This is my first time at Shoptalk, so it is an honor to be up at stage. This is something that we talk about a lot, and I know you and I spoke about this a little bit, but one of the most ironic things is that we've all know this to be true, that TV advertising is one of the best branding vehicles that exists, yet does TV advertising actually itself have a branding problem? And the person that actually created the word performance for lower funnel deserves all of the raises in the world, because it kind of indicates that the other side is not performance. You know, listen, I was in ad tech and digital for most of my career, and I've been at NBCU for a little over a year now. And one of the reasons I came over is because for years I was envious of the assets that NBCU had. This incredible reach, this IP, this emotional connection, executional excellence, right? If we say TV advertising didn't exist, right? And we came to Shoptalk and announced a product that reached 90% of US households in moments of joy, togetherness, non-skippable brand safety, it would blow people's mind, right? And that is what television advertising is. And so call it what you want to call it. You can call it legacy, but it works, and it's continued to work for a really, really long time.
Yeah. I'm old enough that I think of TV in the era when like you'd have top 10 TV shows of the week and ratings and GRPs and vast reach and these cultural moments that you're already alluding to as kind of the key things that TV brings to the ad game. But at the same time, you have a world today where people maybe care about reach, but they also care a lot about reaching a specific audience demographic, even individuals these days that they're interested in. How do you see the balance between kind of the reach story and the precision story as NBC talks to brands?
Yeah, we believe that, and we see this in the data, that both are incredibly valuable and important, right? And we hear this all the time from marketers, that actually they might have moved a little too far into the world of precision, and that actually people have more in common than you realize, right? Most of us have hair and need shampoo. Most of us have a mouth and sometimes, or for me, often want chocolate, right? We need shoes on our feet. So there's more in common than not. And these moments of massive reach, emotional engagement matter for a brand. They move the needle for them. And there's also moments where you need to be more precise. So if you take a step back and think about, you know, engagement moments that matter for a brand, I think there's no better example of that than SNL 50 that just occurred a couple of weeks ago, right? Where this is a cultural phenomenon. The entire country was talking about it. We have brands that integrated into the content with commercials they've never done before. So if you guys have not seen it, you should look up. There's a Capital One delicious dish creative that is hysterical, and Molly Shannon kicking it to, you know, hey, Capital One guy, like, what's in your wallet? That you will remember that, whether you want a credit card right in that moment or later on, that's going to stick out for you, right? Yeah. And then on the precision area, this is also an area we've been investing in deeply, because there's a time for that as well when people are actually in market and want to make a purchasing decision. So we partnered with with Instacart, which I'm sure most of you guys all are very familiar with here, but to leverage data and targeting for Jif peanut butter. And what we saw was when we married that data, that rich data, people who were buying peanut butter with the premium environment and the reach that we had, it drove 40% new first-time buyers for Jif that they had not seen before. So there's really a moment for each. There's a moment to reach people who might not be in the market in that moment, to change their perception, and that's a long-term decision. And then there's a moment to reach people who are actually in the market. And both of those we've been really focused on advancing attribution and measurement so that brands can understand the impact at the moment as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I definitely want to get back to measurement and how you're unlocking that. But I guess one more thing about NBC that I think is super interesting is, you've got the linear business, like TV, like people watch TV, and then you've got the streaming side of the business, Peacock, and all these cool, kind of more digital, more on-demand ways that people access NBC's shows, content. Yeah. Do you still think of those as really separate in terms of the ad opportunities, or are you finding ways to kind of synergize them together?
No, I mean, for us, the priority is pulling them together because the assets are important and people view them in different ways. Here's this stat that I saw from the team the other day that I thought was fascinating. Gen Z, that same age range, Gen Z, spends 8% more time watching SNL content than that same age range did 10 years ago, right? People are watching more of this type of content. They're just watching it in different ways. But from an advertising perspective, a brand doesn't really care about how they reach the consumer as long as they reach them in that emotional, engaging moment, right? So for us, we think about it from the full platform, the full portfolio. And we've been building products on the targeting side as well as the attribution to actually have one targeting, one layer of targeting across every single moment that someone could be watching our content.
Great. One of the things that TV/premium video has been talking about for a long time is shoppability, kind of getting back to that idea of kind of driving action, driving kind of moments when somebody is actually like, oh yes, I really want that. I mean, I'm old enough that I remember when people talked about Jennifer Aniston's sweater on Friends, and the day that you could, before iPhones came along, you could maybe with your remote control order her sweater because you love her sweater. How is shoppability, is it real today? Where are we at in the shoppability journey?
Yeah, the Jennifer Aniston sweater is like a legend now, right? We've talked about this with so many channels. I will say in the last couple of years, there's been incredible advancements in the capability around shoppability on the TV screen and to remove the friction that I think had existed before. We have QR codes, we have AI that scans content to find the right what's in the show and being able to buy it after. We have card integration, so NBCU has been really investing in that as well. And so I think as an industry, that is going to become really table stakes, right? The new products, the advancements to actually remove friction from the consumer journey. But what makes us really unique as an organization is our ability to tie IP and our unique assets of content into that experience. So one good example of this, and there's, I think, 3 different flavors that we've been really focused on that have different benefits for each. One that's been around for quite some time that people don't really talk about, but has been a shoppable experience that's core to us and core to our background is Jill's Steals and Deals on the Today Show. Now, that's actually time-based. There are deals that come and then they go, and there's a QR code to shop for them. And we've seen upwards of $1 million for a single brand in a single day with this promotion, right? So this is huge sales that you see in this moment that might not be talked about quite as often because maybe it's not as sexy as some of the newer innovation.
Yeah.
Another example that we have is when you're not in the show in and of itself, but it is really endemic to the content and we help brands build around it. So I think we have an example to queue up, but to quickly just tee it up here. This was one that we actually ran last week for Top Chef, which is a show on Bravo. And it shows, people who have won Top Chef before, and it's an integration with Wayfair on how to actually buy some of the products that, are featured in Top Chef or used in the kitchen. And it's a great way for a brand to sort of be part of the content without having to actually be in the content in and of itself.
Yeah, that's great. Let's watch the video if we can make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure wherever he is, Mark from Shark Ninja appreciates the
right, and they get it integrated into it as well. So, I mean, as you can see here, it hits on the moment. The contextual alignment is key to get people to actually, shop, to change their behaviors, right? And then the third flavor of this as well is if it's not endemic to the content in and of itself, we sort of try to create these moments. So an example that we had from the Paris Olympics last summer, we worked with Instacart on something that we call virtual concession. Now we ran this during a weekend where there was going to be an immense amount of gold moments. So Katie Ledecky was swimming for gold. We had Sha'Carri Richardson running for the gold medal. We had the men's basketball team competing. So it's this moment of real anticipation. And then at that moment, you see an Instacart ad that's saying, hey, get your products, get your snacks, get what you want to eat or drink delivered to your house so you don't miss a moment. It featured Talenti from Unilever, Miller Coors, and other brands. And we saw a tremendous increase, a 22% increase for Instacart on people who are buying versus the previous 4 weeks. We saw
what was the time? Was that like immediately while the campaign was going on, or what was the time frame that you were measuring?
It's a great question. So it was a couple weeks after as well, because the real impact of these moments is not just getting people to buy in that moment itself, but do you change behaviors in the weeks that follow? And how do we leverage the data and insights to help our marketers understand the impact of those ads?
Yeah, I think it's maybe one of the mistakes some people make is just kind of if it doesn't happen in 24 hours, it doesn't count anymore.
Right.
And I think, yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about attribution. I think it's such an exciting moment as we heard from Best Buy. The retailers are kind of bringing all sorts of first-party data capabilities online, both to support their own retail media efforts, but also to help partners as well. So like, how is NBCU thinking about working with partners to augment your data measurement capabilities, especially around those kind of lower funnel type metrics?
Yeah, I mean, for us, this is a critical part of our business. And I know we've talked about this a little bit, but the power of the TV screen is both the long-term and the short-term impact that these advertisements have. The challenge that existed historically was that we had to wait months for MMM models to come back to show our marketers the power of what it is that they ran. Well, that's just not the case anymore. We have a partnership with Instacart. We've got a partnership with Walmart Connect. We have a partnership with Adobe and Coachella and others to show our advertisers that these ads that they're placing across our portfolio have double duty. They're working twice as hard for them because they are actually driving brand love and brand affinity at the highest level, but they're also moving products off the shelf as quickly as possible. And so we have been really invested in giving that data back to the marketers and closing that data feedback loop so that they can feel confident that the move out of sort of lower funnel and into the upper funnel is driving results for them and for their brands.
It's interesting. I feel like I hear from VPs of marketing and CMOs that they kind of get the directive from on high. Oh, we got to spend more on branding. Like we're too focused on performance. But then like they do that, and then they hear from on high, why are our performance metrics all like not working so much anymore? So I mean, it kind of sounds like you can do both, but you probably have to engineer the message and the media and the placement like really carefully to manage to do both branding and performance at the same time.
Yeah, and we've been really invested in the data, the research, the tech to help prove that, right? If you move from search into upper funnel, it actually makes your search work harder for you, right? So what is this better together? What is the amplification of brand that it has on lower funnel? It's a really large area of focus for us, and maybe we need a different word than legacy. So for all these marketers in the room, if you want to continue to think of something.
I'm very open. We'll be planning the new market version 2 for next year. We'll have a better word by then. The last thing I want to talk to you a bit about today is kind of the idea of like who gets to advertise on NBCU's platforms, both linear and streaming. I think there's sort of a perception that like the big brands, a lot of whom are here, like the Pepsis and whatnot, of course, but smaller brands may feel like either TV is not right for them or that they'd have trouble getting your attention. So like, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I was at another conference, and somebody who runs media for one of the really large energy drink brands, sells millions of dollars on Amazon and Walmart, was like, yeah, I don't buy TV ads because I can't afford it. Like that perception still exists for a lot of brands. And so I think, from our perspective, we just need to be louder about what the opportunity is. It's a huge area of growth for us of our business. The SMB team we have at NBCU who is here, so hopefully you guys get to meet a bunch of them, is the fastest growing team, the fastest growing business for us. And one of the things that's really remarkable is that the digitalization of television has democratized access to this inventory in a way that hasn't existed really before. And so there is an opportunity for brands of all sizes to participate. I think a perfect sort of case study of this, an example of this is there's no larger moment than we were talking about before, but the Paris Olympics, right?
Sure.
And with Peacock, for the first time ever, we have democratized access to the content around the Olympics. So every single game, every single match was available on Peacock for the first time, whether it was ping pong or archery, running or basketball, whatever it was available on the platform. And what that also meant was there was more opportunities for brands to participate in a way they haven't before. And so for the first time ever, we opened up programmatic access with the trade desk to actually participate in that moment, to allow brands to participate. And what we saw was that 90% of the advertisers that ran programmatically with us in the trade desk on the Olympics were first-time advertisers. And we were able to see, too, through that partnership, that 94% of the households that they reached were new and unreachable in any other place on streaming, showing that it drove a whole totally incremental audience.
Okay.
And so again, there's just real opportunity for brands of all sizes to participate across the platform.
Yeah.
Portfolio.
I guess if I can, I worry sometimes about democratizing, right? I mean, it's a good word. I like democracy, but like, does that risk, I don't know, devaluing somewhat some of like the super premium like moments that you're able to bring to those big advertisers and that advertisers are willing to pay a lot of money for?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? For the Olympics, if you want to own a certain sport or want to integrate with the athletes and have a huge impact, yes, those moments are finite. There are not endless moments like that, and they are more premium experiences. But if you just want to participate with impressions with a 15 or 30-second spot in those moments of engagement, there are opportunities for brands to do that as well at lower price points.
Yeah, great answer. We're running short on time, but one more thing around the idea of democratization and small to medium-sized brands being able to get into this game is the launch of Comcast's Universal Ads, which
Yes.
NBCU is participating in. Can you say a quick word about your kind of how you think about being part of essentially a kind of ad network of super premium video media creators? And what does that create for NBC that you guys couldn't maybe do on your own?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we are so excited about the launch of Universal Ads, and actually the response to it, I think, has been even stronger than we had imagined it to be. There's been a lot of conversations from many streamers or media and tech companies about removing the friction, removing the tax for all advertisers to participate in the TV ecosystem. So that's been going on for quite some time. What makes this different is that historically a lot of companies were thinking about it in their own silos, right? Like doing it here and here, which would create multiple ads managers, which would make it really hard for a brand to actually decide where to go or how to get scale, right? Like if you want to make this as easy to buy as Meta or other places, you both need to have the tech to make it easy, which we're doing, but you also need the reach, right? And so for the first time ever, we are seeing publishers across the board come together in a way they haven't to actually partner and drive that reach, which is going to have a massive impact on performance. So it is not just NBC, but you have Fox, you have WB, you have Paramount, you have Roku. I mean, all of these publishers for the first time are partnering together. And it's really the first time you see the premium marketplace coming together and honestly showing that there's a real different, another alternative to YouTube in the living room.
Feels like an exciting moment, but also that like some long-held competitive feelings need to be sort of managed in order to be both competing with and collaborating with your peers.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're down to our last minute, but I always like to wrap up these conversations with a quick question about the future. So let's look further into the future than we normally do on our stages. What are you thinking about for 2026 for NBCU?
Yeah, 2026 is actually our 100th year anniversary.
Ooh, happy birthday.
Thank you. The Peacocks never look better. And we have the biggest year in our history. So we start in September is the 20-year anniversary of Sunday Night Football. We then kick off the NBA, which we are starting again in October. November, we're back here for BravoCon, which is my mecca of sports. You go into holiday time frame where we have the tree lighting, Thanksgiving parade, and others. And then once you get into February, we start with the Milan Winter Olympics. We pause the Milan Olympics to go to Super Bowl. We go back to the Milan Olympics. We then have NBA All-Star Weekend. a couple weeks in between, and then we have World Cup. So in our 100th year anniversary, we have the largest stage we've ever had to help advertisers tell their stories.
When are you going to sleep, Alison?
It's 2027.
That's what 27 is for. So super cool. So these amazing moments where you are kind of gathering those audiences that people have craved for ages, and in ways where you can kind of do both top of funnel and bottom of funnel. And I'm so tired of people talking about the funnel. We should find a new word for that too.
I agree.
And ways that like brands that may have never felt like NBCU was the right place for them, or TV in general was the right place for them to potentially like have some messages there, as well as all the other places that they could be reaching their audience.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you on our stage.